Yeah, here we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Mega Football Friday edition of Before You Bet. Aaron live right now on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content here on the Covers YouTube channel. Okay, so we must address it. We come on here Monday or Tuesday morning, actually, bragging. How great are we? The best show in the history of the show. On Monday, we go 10-0. Up and down week. I believe yesterday, I hope it was the worst show in the history of the show. I got trashed. My picks went 1-5. Combined with the other fellas, we went 1-10 with our picks yesterday across the Thursday night football game and the NBA. So we will be eating hot dogs for supper tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. We got some ground to make up here, so we do have some bets to get into for the NFL, of course, for the NBA, of course, and for college football. Brad Powers is going to be by here in a matter of seconds to discuss the hot topics, the big games, and he's got 4 best bets for the games here this weekend. So if you guys want to participate in the show today, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube, on X. What do you like in college football this weekend? The NFL, NBA tonight. Give us a little breakdown. We'll read them off throughout the course of the show. Ryan McGee, big fan of Brad. He says, we want Brad. Give me Brad. No NFL. We want Brad. Okay. Let's give him Brad. Let's go to our guy down there. Do you know this guy, Ryan McGee, Brad? A big fan?
I do not. He's not a paid associate. So
Okay.
We'll see how much he wants me. We got to win. So hopefully we have a better week than 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so let's give this guy what he wants. We're going to get into all the big games here momentarily, but we got to get your thoughts on the little bit of a shakeup, the college football rankings. There's always something to complain about with these. Anything for you to complain about?
Well, I mean, everyone asks me about it, and I usually don't pay attention until the one before the conference championship, and then obviously the finale one, because then it's the most actionable. But they never really fully identify, is it the best teams or is it the most deserving teams? And usually they accomplish neither. So that's frustrating when it's all said and done. I'm anxious to see Indiana's behind Penn State right now, even though Penn State has a loss. What if Indiana goes on the road to Columbus and loses by 7 at Ohio State? Does that mean Indiana jumps Penn State because they lost by 7 on the road compared to 7 at home? Doubtful. They'll probably drop Indiana significantly. So that upsets me. And then I would say the most concerning thing is, do I think SMU is better than BYU? Yes. But both teams have the same exact record, 9-1. They played each other. BYU went on the road and beat SMU. And yet BYU is behind SMU in the rankings. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, so before we get into the biggest games of the weekend and your best bets, let's look at the board here tonight. 3 games, a couple of double-digit spreads, a couple games with totals in the high 50s. We have Purdue, Michigan State on Fox. Anything stand out to you tonight?
Yeah, pizza bet, Michigan State. We'll lay the 14. Got bet up this morning from 13.5 to 14. Pretty critical half-point move. What am I seeing? Well, it's what I'm not seeing from Purdue, and that's pretty much anything because since week 1, when they crushed an FCS opponent, Purdue's covered 1 game. 1 game against FBS competition. They're failing to cover by an average of 2 touchdowns per game. I think Michigan State on senior night destroys Purdue, just like pretty much everybody else has.
Okay, let's talk the big game of the weekend here. Indiana looking for a little bit of respect. They're taking on Ohio State. This spread down to 10.5. It was 13 points yesterday when we discussed the game with Jake Butt. So what gives with the line move, and were any leans on the game from a betting perspective?
Yeah, betting syndicate that's got deep pockets took Indiana yesterday evening. They're not magically 65% on the season, so I don't think it's the sharpest group, but they do have deep pockets. Obviously, you got a concern for Ohio State with the injury to their center. It's kind of a 1 + 1 = 3 situation with already them down their left tackle for the season. But does that impact their ability to win the national championship? Yes. Does that really impact them in this game? I'm not so sure. I mean, again, Indiana really hasn't played anybody. Kudos for them for blowing most teams out. However, the most talented team that Indiana played this year was their last game. It was Michigan. They struggled mightily, particularly in the second half. I'm here to tell you Ohio State's more talented than Michigan and much better coached, and it's on the road. I like Ohio State minus 10.5.
Okay, let's look at one of the hotter teams in college football. Ole Miss is favored by 11.5 points, taking on Florida. Ole Miss, a popular pick around these parts lately. Jake Butt was telling us he wouldn't be surprised if they go on a big run there in the college football playoff. You echoed that same sentiment. Florida, bad season, looking to play spoiler here. They upset LSU last week. Do you think Ole Miss can roll here and cover this number?
I do. Now, it's not, the number's gotten away from us a little bit. It's moved a couple of points. I'm part of that money on Ole Miss this week. What am I seeing? First off, I like the situational spot for Ole Miss. They're off a bye. They get back their All-American wide receiver, Trey Harris, who was leading the nation in receiving prior to missing the last few games. Florida, meanwhile, their secondary banged up. All four starters had to play all 93 snaps last week. And now they're facing a team that wants to go tempo and has 4 or 5 receivers that can really get after you. So I like Ole Miss to dominate Florida like they did against South Carolina earlier this year on the road.
Okay, next up, let's talk Colorado, Kansas. Colorado, of course, is a red-hot bet. They have covered the spread in 8 straight games. They're favored by 2.5. Kansas, a decent bet lately as well. Do you think the Buffaloes can keep rolling here?
Yeah, I'm going to probably get some hate tweets, but I am fading Colorado, even though they've covered 8 straight. I like Kansas. I don't think anybody in the Big 12 is playing better than Kansas right now, who they beat in Iowa State, who's power rated similarly to Colorado. They went on the road and beat BYU last week. Now they're at home catching 2.5 points. And boy, Colorado, fortunate this year as far as scheduling dynamics. You think, well, they had to play preseason favorites like Kansas State, Utah, Oklahoma State. Well, all 3 of those teams are down. Meanwhile, teams like BYU, Iowa State, those teams are much better than expected. They're not playing those teams, but who they have played in Big 12, a team like Baylor, they had to win via Hail Mary. They lost to the best team, at least at the time, was Nebraska. Got whipped by them and lost to Kansas State at home. I'm here to tell you, Kansas power ratings wise is just as good, if not better, than all 3 of those teams. So I look for an upset here. Kansas outright.
All right, big stakes in this one. BYU coming off that loss to Kansas, taking on Arizona State. Sun Devils, they're coming off an upset win of their own, taking on against Kansas State there. What do you think of this game? Arizona State is favored by 3, a total of 49.
Yeah, honestly, I've not bet the game. I was fully expecting, if you'd asked me about this game a week ago, I'd have said it's lining up great for Arizona State to be a best bet. But you just mentioned what happened. We lost value. Why? Because Arizona State pulled an outright upset as a touchdown plus underdog against Kansas State. Meanwhile, BYU loses their first game of the season, an upset loss to Kansas. So in a game that probably was pick 'em a week ago, is now seeing Arizona State -3, value lost. If you had to bet it, pizza bet Arizona State -3.
Okay, best bet time 4 today. I believe that is a season high on the show here on Friday. So let's get into it. Let's start with the Fighting Irish. They're favored by 14 points against Army. And you like Notre Dame to take care of business.
Yeah, 2 major reasons. Number one, Notre Dame's already seen the option this year in Navy and handled it, and then some, winning 51-14. I don't expect them to get 6 turnovers like Navy had, but what I do expect is kind of a culture shock for Army. Army has not played a single team this entire season in the top 90 of my power ratings. Notre Dame is 4 touchdowns better than anybody they face. So I think that'll be issues for Army. I mean, it's just, strength of schedule we can mention, but I've never seen, as far as a big game at this time of year, a bigger disparity in strength of schedule.
Okay, next up, Nevada is favored by 3. They're hosting Air Force, and you like the home team to cover the number.
Yeah, 3 is still playable, but I think you can find 2.5 out here. A lot of people love Air Force the last couple of weeks. They pull outright upsets. I don't like it this week. I like Nevada off a bye, extra time to prep for the option. Also extra time for a Nevada team that was banged up prior to the bye to get healthy. Wolfpack for me. I'm laying the 2.5 -3.
Okay, another 2.5 point spread here. Auburn, you like them as a 2.5 point dog taking on Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, if you just hid the names and the records and just, looked at the statistical profile of both of these teams, you would have said Auburn should be favored in this one. What's the deal? Well, Auburn's minus 11 in turnovers. So they have had ill-timed turnovers at the wrong times, changed a couple plays in their season. They have a winning record, not a 4-6 record. But you look at yards per play margin, yards per game margin, they are not only better than A&M, they are significantly better than A&M. So I think we got an outright upset here. Auburn Tigers, they play their best game of the season.
Okay, next up we have the Battle of Los Angeles, UCLA taking on USC. 5-point spread, and you like the underdog UCLA.
I do. Now, it's not officially a true road game for USC, but I do think it's notable when they're not playing in the Coliseum this year. They've lost 4 games outright as a favorite, and favored again here, short favorite. I'm more pertinent to this game is USC's dealt with major issues with the flu. They've had a lot of players miss practice this week. I like the trend line of UCLA more than I do at USC. So UCLA plus the points. Wouldn't be surprised if they won outright.
Okay, something fun here for the end, Brad. We always do these on your Friday appearances. We talk a lot of movies, food, different sports topics. So let's combine sports and film/television. Who is your favorite fictional athlete of all time?
So I'm not only is he my favorite, but pertinent to our discussion, I think he's worth the most to a point spread. And that is an outside linebacker. And I'm talking worth more than Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Outside linebacker for the South Central Louisiana State University Mud Dogs, none other than Bobby Boucher. I mean, the Mud Dogs had lost 40 straight games. He comes not off the bench, but off from delivering water to them, leads them to the 1998 Bourbon Bowl. In that game, they're down 27-0. He's taking care of his mama. They bring him in on one of those wind boats onto the field. He gets to come back 27-0. They win the game. I mean, come on, Bobby Boucher for me. For comedic purposes, for performance purposes, point spread, you name it, it's him for me.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out. I gotta.
Are you serious?
And watch out. Well, when it came out, I remember going to theaters, and I probably watched it on VHS as well. But it's been probably 2 decades, close to 2 decades since I've seen it. So yeah, I got to go back and watch that one. A lot of the Adam Sandler movies, very rewatchable. So my 2 candidates, I'm going to go with the man behind me. Not Apollo Creed. His arrogance got him killed. I'm talking about Rocky Balboa.
Oh, that's a great pick.
That's an easy one. I got a soft spot for Rocky. When he reemerged in the first Creed movie, he got nominated for an Academy Award for that. Sylvester Stallone. I think he won it. Best Supporting Actor? Maybe. He won some type of award for that, Golden Globe or something like that. Kind of disappointing it wasn't in the third Creed movie. I'm happy they kind of mentioned him and stuff, though. I don't know if he had some type of a falling out with the director or something along those lines, but he might be back in the series here at some point. And my number 2 is Kenny Powers, a bit more recent. And that's coming back, I guess. I think they're doing a movie or something like that for HBO. So you can't go wrong with that.
That's a great choice. I like your picks better than mine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good. Happy Gilmore is fantastic. Air Bud, somebody in the live chat, Jon Metler says, "Yeah, I watched that movie with my son. It was okay. It's for what it is. If your kid's like 5 years old, it's fine." Gordon Bombay, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What a great head coach he was. Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn. That's a great movie, a great series. Willie Beeman, of course. Some pretty good. I mean, you can make a case for a lot of people. Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Shuttlesworth. No, I think Rocky's the slam dunk number 1.
Yeah, your guy Rudy, maybe.
Whatever.
Rocky. Yeah, Rocky's had the longevity. I mean, when the first Rocky movie came out before I was born, I believe in the late 70s.
76. It won the Oscar.
Oh, geez. Yeah, absolutely. Cole Trickle, Days of Thunder.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, Al Pacino.
Yeah. Boy, the chat. I'll tell you what, got to give it up to the chat. They're on top of this. Yeah,
the guys got her here. Absolutely. Calvin Cambridge in the movie Like Mike. I think it was Little Bow Wow, I think. Blue Chips. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a really good movie for sure. Okay, Brad, we'll leave it at that. Maybe sometime over the weekend to sneak in a movie or two. I got to go back and watch The Water Boy here. But, of course, you're going to be right back with us on Monday's show, recapping what happened on the weekend, looking ahead to the week coming up. So best of luck with all your bets, and we'll catch you on Monday.
Thank you so much. Good luck, guys.
Yes, sir. The man right there. Okay, let's move on to NFL. No time to waste. And we go to our guy, the man with the sexiest smile on all the sports betting jingles. We got to ask you, who's your favorite fictional athlete of all time?
The chat ruined it. I was going to go Ricky Vaughn. And then, like a loser, I was Google searching it. And then I landed on Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. That's where it was. Because I searched it and it brought up Apollo Creed, obviously. And then I'm like, Carl Weathers. No, Chubbs. Yeah, maybe Chubbs was his best fictional character in a show. So just tap it in there, Chubbs. Just a great movie. Yeah, maybe a good weekend for Adam Sandler movies. Where do you stop the train? Like the early ones are good. Hanson Brothers, that's a great one. Yep. You stop the train somewhere around. What's the one where he has the controller and like he can stop everything? Like there's a point
Click.
Yeah. There's a point in the Adam Sandler catalog where you kind of grow out of it. 50 First Dates or whatever. That 30 First Dates, that might be it. That might be where the edge is.
Yeah, he Sandler's been in a couple good movies lately. The better one was a bit silly.
What was the kicker's name in that movie? The Shane Falco movie. The Brit.
You know who we should be naming is Shooter McGavin. It's probably one of the best fictional. I'd say him and Ivan Drago are probably the best fictional
Thunder
sports villains.
Lips, right? Thunder Lips from Rocky.
Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, great actor. Okay, so the news of the morning: Daniel Jones released from the Giants. We know he was essentially getting benched, and he went in and asked for his release. I don't know. I'm not shocked by that, I guess, but he's going to get clear waivers because no one's going to pay him what his contract is. He's essentially going to become a free agent. You would assume that someone would pick up. He would be a very high-end backup quarterback, right? He's never really played in a good offense before. What do you think of this? Do you think he gets another chance to start, or is just going to be a high-end backup, maybe for a team like my Miami Dolphins?
Two things. I got two things. First, I tweeted out, that escalated quickly, and then I saw that Todd Furman tweeted it out like 20 minutes earlier, the exact same thing. That made me feel stupid. And there it is. Jon Metler. That's where we're going. Cowboys sign him. Daniel Jones enters the second half on Thursday's football game versus Tommy Cutlets.
Well, it's funny because we're all making fun of that game. People are a little down on the Thanksgiving Day games this year, and it's like, oh my God, Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito. That's must-see TV if the Cowboys were to pick up Daniel Jones and then throw him in that game. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I'd take Daniel Jones as a backup to Tua on the Dolphins. That's what's going to do the Dolphins in this season is that spurt where Tua was out. Awful quarterback play. So who knows? Kind of interesting. So the game last night, we got skunked. We combined to go 0-4 on that one.
Yeah, our choices were literally, though, 4-0 or 0-4 because I was on the spread. I was on the favorites. You were on the dogs team total under. I was on Najee over carries. You were on Najee over yards. And they gave the ball to Jalen Warren because he was a little more effective early and watching Najee run for 1 or 2 yards.
Yeah, that game, it was at the point, I think, like, we got to the halftime point of the game, and I was like, I might just fall asleep early. Like, I have no interest in this game. Then once the snow starts falling, it got interesting, and the guys played pretty well. Russell Wilson had a couple nice passes. Of course, Jameis, you got to give him all the credit in the world. And I make fun of the Cleveland Browns quite a bit, but what I will say is good for those fans. They probably have it worse than any fan base in sports, and the fans stick with that team through thick and thin, and there's a lot of thin, not a lot of thick, right? The Deshaun Watson thing, that's going to set that team back half a decade at the very least, and they're still right in the middle of that. So good for those fans in attendance getting to witness that live. The snow game, the Jameis Winston snow game. We're all going to remember that. So yeah, pretty cool.
Those were two wild hits. The hit that he took in the end zone on the carry, and then the hit that Njoku got on the 2-point conversion. Both of those guys got absolutely crumpled. But it's so funny. Like, Njoku drops that easy touchdown pass and then catches that 2-point conversion. Like, make it make sense. He had a couple of big drops in that game as well. I don't know. Jameis looked awesome. It didn't look like an easy thing to do. The snow was blowing like right in your face in 2 of the 4 quarters. And you just looked in the stands, and shirtless human beings who were just there for the entirety of the game. It was impressive. It was great TV.
Out on a work night, no shirt, getting drunk in Cleveland.
And show up to work on your Friday not like a normal human being.
I will be looking. I don't know who the Browns are playing next week. I'm probably going to look to fade them, though. Remember last time they had a big win against the Ravens? Jameis went off, threw for over 300 yards, and they followed that up quite badly. So I'll probably look to fade them.
The Baltimore, they beat Baltimore and then laid a dud to the Chargers 27-10. They played Denver on December 2nd in Colorado.
Yeah, we'll see what the spread is, but might look to fade them, might look to fade the team total once again. Okay, so back to the drawing board here. We got some ground to make up a little bit of a hole here to start the week, but I believe we can get back on track here. So let's get into the picks. I'm going to get us started here. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to cover the big number. They're favored by 10.5 points in Carolina against the Panthers. And the Panthers have lost by an average of 22 points versus teams who currently have a winning record. We're just a month removed from the Commanders stomping them by 33 points. Kansas City, of course, coming off their first loss of the season. Pretty good in the spot last season. They went 4-1-1 against the spread. They cannot afford to take their foot off the gas. If they somehow go on to lose this game, the number one seed in the AFC all of a sudden would be the Buffalo Bills. So I do expect full effort from Kansas City in this one. And the big gap is going to come defensively in this one. Kansas City is 4th in pressure percentage. That's not going to be good for Bryce Young. The Panthers are dead last in pressure percentage. This sets up very nicely for Patrick Mahomes. They're also last on third down, 27th in the red zone. So foot on the gas game for the Chiefs. I'll take them to cover that big number. Okay, off to Prop City here. Brian Robinson. What do we like for him?
I like the fact that he's a week removed from a hamstring injury, and he had 16 carries last week in a game with negative game script, and he has some extra rest. I also like the fact that Jaden Daniels seems to be regressing as a passer since the rib injury, forcing Washington to run the ball a bit more. We saw that Austin Eckler isn't really a fantastic RB1. Robinson is the man, and he gets all the red zone carries too, and those really tick up when we're playing the carry game. So over 16.5, even money. The blitz projecting close to 20. There's a lot to like. And I didn't even mention the matchup. Dallas allows 36.6 carries allowed per game at home. 187 points, Joe, in 5 home games. There's a funny joke. I wish I brought it in. The amount of teams who have won in AT&T Stadium since the Cowboys did last year, people include Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. Okay, moving on. My favorite total bet of the week. I'm going to take the under between the Bears and the Vikings in Chicago. The total set at 39.5. Let's get into it. Chicago's defense, their offense, first of all, getting all the headlines for the wrong reason. Flying under the radar how good their defense has been. They've been elite on third down in the red zone, top 4 in each of those categories, and their numbers actually improved quite a bit at home. Minnesota's defense really starting to peak again. They've held 3 straight opponents to 13 points or less. Last season when these teams played, they combined for 22 points in one game, 32 in another. Bears' offense is significantly flawed here, guys. So they've gone 4 straight games where they've been unable to reach 20 points. They are awful on third down. They are awful in the red zone here lately. And Sam Darnold probably trending in the wrong direction. I think that's fair to say. He has an equal amount of touchdown passes and interceptions over his last couple of games here. Now he's going outside on the road versus a really good defense. So I don't think this one shapes up very well for him. So we'll go under 39.5. You have a pick for this game later, but let's go in order here that we gave them out pre-show. Chuba Hubbard, what do we like?
Chuba, yeah. What did I say? I said Logan Paul, Jake Paul. That's the second time on the show I've gotten those dumb brothers confused. And
I didn't get what you were getting after there. I was like, but
he's won in that stadium before since the Cowboys have won in that stadium.
Recently, yeah.
More recently than Dallas.
I got you.
There we go. I'm like, what? He doesn't get it. Oh, that's because I said it wrong, like a donkey. But Chuba. So this is the spot, Joe. We might disagree on this one. I don't think KC's still a team that's blowing teams out. They're not. And that's going to keep the score maybe a little closer than the books are assuming. But even if they do, we know that Carolina will continue to run the ball. despite being down double digits, because it's Bryce Young, just because it's that offense. And Chuba is the man. 50.5 rushing yards, minus 110. There's a few things here that scare you. If you look back and look at how Kansas City has dealt in the past versus other running backs, they've bottled them up. Audric Estime did go over 2 weeks ago, but running backs have had a tough time, but they're not running the ball much versus kind of this average defense. And Chuba is a man who's gone over this number in every game, 9 straight games. He gets 80% of the carries. Even if Carolina just runs 20 times, he's going to get 18 carries. Jonathan Brooks might draw back in, but Miles Sanders is out. So those carries will kind of go there. I've been on the Chuba wagon all year just because it's something you can set your watch to, and they're not going to change. Maybe, I don't know, he doesn't have any carry markets out, which is kind of telling right now, but 50.5 is a really low number considering his 10-game median is 63. Maybe they'll keep it close. I mean, they do have extra rest to prepare. Kansas City coming off that big game. Sorry, I almost called it a win. Big game versus the Bills, but this is it. This is the offense. The offense isn't Bryce Young, so let's be honest.
Okay, so a minor disagreement there, perhaps. Let us keep on moving here. So maybe a good-looking game here on Sunday. The potential for one. I got a weirdo bet. I haven't done too many of these weirdo ones this season. Had a good run with them last season where we were pounding the Chiefs second half unders. I do think we have a good pairing here on Sunday night. Eagles, Rams for a first quarter under. Allow me to explain. This is set at 9.5 points. So first of all, the trends. These teams have combined to go under the first quarter total in 15 of their 20 games this season. Look at first quarter scoring for these teams. 2 of the worst in the NFL. It's shocking to see. So the Eagles are averaging 1.4 first quarter points per game. And that's actually better than the Rams, who are averaging 1.3. And if you look at the Eagles defense here lately, one of the best defenses in the NFL here. First in yards per play allowed over the last 3 games. One of the best pass defenses in the league as well. They run at the highest percentage of any team in the NFL. So you know what that means? It means they're going to be sucking that clock. And hopefully they do a lot of that in the first quarter of this game. And that one stays under 9.5, a low scoring first quarter. I wouldn't argue if you want to take the full game under for that one as well. Okay, back to this Bears-Vikings game. This is a bet you gave out last week. You're giving it out again. I like it. I like it a lot. Caleb Williams under half a touchdown pass. Break it down.
We played it last week. It was 190. He didn't throw a touchdown. It's now gone to 210, and he has a tougher matchup versus Minnesota this week. Like this is a weird spot for this to go up, and it's just a soft market that doesn't get a lot of liquidity, not a lot of money goes into it. So there are some shots that you can take here. I mean, we had both. Jameis Winston was plus 215 last night, not to throw a touchdown in terms of how everything else is priced, but 4 straight games, this has cashed. He has just 9 red zone passes over those 4 games, and he has more than 3 red zone passes in just one of his last 4 games. Remember week 10, Joe, where Caleb Williams got sacked 9 times versus New England? Well, Minnesota ranks 3rd in sack, number 1 in pressure, while New England got 36% of their sacks on the season in that game alone. Reading an article today that it's not so much on the Chicago offensive line for Caleb Williams' issues. He's just struggling to get the ball out. He's taking too much time. He's taking sacks. And it's just an offense that you saw Rashawn Johnson starting to get more carries in the red zone too. Minnesota could absolutely go off with the highest pressure rate in all football versus Caleb Williams, who ranks 34th in completion percentage under pressure.
Okay, my favorite prop bet of the weekend. I'm going to take Austin Eckler to go over his receiving yard total. Set at 18.5 over at BetMGM. It's a little bit higher everywhere else. So good reason to go check out BetMGM. So we're going to take him, to go over that number, 18.5. This is a guy who has a very high ceiling for receiving yards. He's had 40 or more receiving yards in 5 of the 10 games that he's played in this season. He's coming off a game where he had a season high 8 catches off 9 targets for 89 yards. Jingles alluded to Daniel struggling a little bit to throw the ball, so hopefully some dump-offs go to Eckler. And this one, and to bring it all together, Dallas is getting absolutely burned by running backs in the passing game. You might recall we took Joe Mixon to go over his receiving yard total on Monday Night Football. He did that on one catch. They are allowing over 40 yards per game and over 10 yards per catch to running backs. Might just take 2 catches here for Eckler. Hopefully it breaks a big one early for us, and he goes over that one. Okay, the final NFL pick of the show today, Nick Westbrook. Ikene.
Yes. I really like that Eckler. Jaden Daniels last week had one of the lowest completed air yard marks in all of football on the season. The 4th lowest of ever, lowest last week. He looks like a different person right now. So he's going to get that into the short passing game with Eckler. Nick Westbrook-Ikine, over 30.5 receiving yards. Guess what? He's gone over this in all 4 games since taking over the starting job. Now that D-Hop's out of town, Will Levis has looked competent through some decent balls last week, despite like a mid-50 completion percentage. Yes, he had a 98-yard touchdown, but in the other 3 games, he didn't, and he went over this number 2. He led the team in targets last week. He got an indoor game with negative game script versus Houston. So, I mean, increased passing efficiency, increased passing volume as an 8-point dog. There's just a lot to like about this situation because we're entering week 5 and he's running 85% of the routes, and I don't think it's priced in as a number 2 in an offense that will be behind. Tajay Spears doesn't look like he'll be around, so there's a few more targets to go around in that spot. It's him and Ridley, and 30.5 is a small number.
There we have it, our NFL picks for Sunday. So Jingles, we'll let you go here. You're going to be right back with us on Monday, of course, to recap the weekend and to break down our best bets. Pretty good-looking Monday Night Football game as well here with the Ravens looking to bounce back in LA against the Chargers. So before you go, let the viewers know what else you have out there on social media at covers.com that they can check out.
A bunch of TD stuff has come up recently. Sunday Night Football game. Anytime you can get Jalen Hurts for a touchdown around even money in that spot. You did allude to that Rams defense really looking good, and we don't know the status of Devontae Smith right now, so there's not a lot of markets open. It's the amount of rushing touchdowns that Jalen Hurts has right now is silly. So taking some of that for the Sunday night preview. And then the touchdown article, I didn't even throw any of them out. Anthony Richardson didn't adjust much after last week. We had him at plus 220s, plus 175 there. Sean Payton confused everybody last week, and everybody thought Audric Estime was going to be the runner. Javonte Williams actually got it, and they got a great matchup this weekend versus the Raiders indoors. So I know Javonte Williams for a touchdown, any starting running back versus the Raiders indoors for plus 150. I'll take some of that too. So TD heavy this week, and maybe I'll throw a few ladders out there, but that's where we are, pal.
Let's go. All right, buddy. Thanks again for joining. We'll catch you on Monday.
Toodaloo.
All right, quick peek behind the curtain here. Before we went to air, like we do a thing, we submit our picks to producer Mick, and he builds these little graphics for us. I was going to do a 6-point teaser with the Dolphins and the 49ers, taking the Dolphins down to 1.5, and the 49ers would have brought them up to 9. But the 49ers came out and said, Brock Purdy, it's not totally certain that he's going to play. So I scrapped that. I still do like the Dolphins on a teaser. I like the Dolphins to cover this week against the Patriots. So if you want them on a teaser, though, down to 1.5, they are 17-1 straight up in their last 18 games when favored by 7 or more. We know they beat up on the bad teams, and they've actually covered in 8 straight games against producer Mick's New England Patriots. I'll throw that out there to rub that in. So if I needed to do a teaser, I'd probably pair the Dolphins with the Houston Texans, so you can take down to -2 at home versus the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, Drake May, a little bit better than I thought he was going to be. People like Mac Jones quite a bit in his rookie year too, didn't they? How did that work out? He's now the backup for the disgrace that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, let's move into the National Basketball Association, and we go to our guy rubbing it in, wearing his Orlando Magic hat. What am I doing here? I cannot bet against. I'm 0-3. NBA's not good last night overall. It's been a good year in the NBA, but I am 0-3 when going against the Orlando Magic. Everything looked pretty good here for the Lakers, and it wasn't to be. Big win for your Magic, right, John?
Yeah, I was actually watching it. You were actually a lot closer to covering than it probably looked because you woke up and the Magic won, but they were fouling, and then LeBron split free throws, and then the Magic went down and scored, and then they fouled AD. He split free throws, and then they fouled AD another time, and he missed both. So they missed a bunch of free throws. And I mean, if you make those, then the Magic start chucking threes to try to get the lead back. You miss, keep shooting free throws. So it just unfortunately went the other way on you there, but they easily could have covered that 4.5. It was more shocking to see the Magic win than the Lakers not cover. So I don't think you had the wrong play, to be honest.
Yeah, close loss with the Pistons going to overtime with the Hornets. I've had some close wins, though. So those go both ways when you're betting at a large volume here, regardless of the sport. So we're talking a lot of shit about the Philadelphia 76ers this week. I had planned on coming in here and being positive about the Sixers. I wasn't going to pick them to win or cover, but I submitted the pick pre-show, Joel Embiid, to go over his point total of 28.5. And then it comes out he's questionable due to not an injury, due to injury management. And he's got to be in pretty rough shape if he's not going to play in this game, considering how badly things are going. This would be just a second home game for him this season. It is an NBA Cup game. I don't know. Some teams might take that more serious than others. Hopefully the Celtics do. More on that in a second. But if Embiid does end up playing, I still like him to go over that number of 28.5. The Brooklyn Nets play some dirty defense. They allowed the second most free throw attempts per game. He lives at the line. He's coming off a 35-point performance. So we'll see. Stay tuned on social media.
I think it was it Wednesday? We saw it was Nets plus 7.5 against the Sixers on Friday. I don't even know why it was posted so early. It was just it's NBA Cup. And we both were like, we should probably bet that. And then right now it's plus 4. I didn't bet it back then, but it's moving that way. And I was like, God, when I saw it was plus 4, and then he's, now he's the load management, and we didn't know if Cam Thomas was playing. Cam Thomas is playing. They just announced that like an hour ago. So
I hope that the Nets beat them on their home court tonight. How great would that be? Their fans will fucking lose it.
Did you see the Paul George did a podcast about, and he was talking about the leak from no. So he did his podcast and it came out yesterday, and he outright said they're very confused about how Shams got that story, because he was very careful with how he chose his words. He said the only people in the room for that meeting were the people they go to war with on a nightly basis. So he didn't say players, coaches. That's just how he framed it. And he said Shams had word for word what was said in that meeting that nobody was supposed to know that they even had. So I mean, it's getting interesting with the 76ers. Yeah,
they're each other now.
And then there was another report that Embiid is like very focused on finding who that snitch was. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. It's crazy, but
what a shit show. The best reality TV there is, professional sports. Okay, 5 picks total. We're looking to bounce back here as well after last night. Thank God, man, the Spurs went over their team total. They had a 17-point first quarter, too. So they had some work to do. They scored 30-plus in the 3 remaining quarters and ended up actually going over 112.5 quite easily. But we got some work to do here. A bunch of props and one spread. Trae Young, what do you like for him tonight?
Yeah, I'm actually going to scrap this one because I have a bunch of assist props. You can put the graphic up. It's fine. I'm going to talk about Dyson Daniels, his teammate here. So I did bet Trae Young over 11.5 assists plus 105 while we were doing football here. It moved to 12.5 plus 105. So it's moved to full assist with the same juice. So I wouldn't touch that price point. It's obviously moved. It's a good sign it moved. Let's talk Dyson Daniels here, his teammate. It's the same game. He's trading about 2.5 minus 150. You can grab that. I like the alt 4+. You can find about plus 145. If you don't have a 4+ alt, I'd actually prefer if you go 5+. So you can play the 2.5 if you want, but I would go 5+. I think it's about plus 350. His projection's coming in about like just over 4. But the thing you really, really like, this projection is a 4. It's like 30 minutes. And like you can go look at his box scores recently. He's playing like 36, 37. They love this guy. The Atlanta Hawks, he's doing great things for them. And if he goes up to like 36, 37 minutes, I mean, that projection obviously keeps climbing, and that 5+, the plus 350 is a wrong price. And you're playing the Bulls. It's going to be a tempo offensive game. There'll probably be a lot of assists. I really like that one for Dyson Daniels. So I like the Trae Young one too. It just moved too much. So I want to talk about Dyson Daniels.
Okay. Some transparency from John off the top, off to a good start. Okay. So we have a monster spread here. The Celtics favored by 15.5 points over at BetMGM. It's 16 and 16.5 everywhere else. And I probably still like those numbers, but of course we're betting at BetMGM here at Before You Bet. I'm taking the Celtics. Number is not too high. Plenty of motivation here to win by margin. It is an NBA Cup game, and the Celtics are off to, I guess you could say, a bad start. 1-1 in the tournament here. They lost to the Hawks and a 3-point win over the Cavs. So winning by margin matters in this thing. Point differential matters in this thing. And you might think, oh my God, Joe, that's way too many points. Not really. The Wizards' average loss this season has come by 18.8 points. The Knicks beat them by 28 last time out. The Pistons beat them by 20 the game before that. These teams played at the start of the season. The Celtics easily beat them by 20 points. They were up by 28 at one point in the fourth quarter. They ended up pulling their starters. They might not pull their starters at all in this one, even if they are up big. And the path to victory is going to come from three-point land, where the Celtics are absolutely going to kill them here tonight. The Wizards allow the most threes per game. They are 25th. They allow the third most threes per game. They are 25th in opponent three-point percentage. Celtics easily shoot and make the most threes per game in the NBA. This could be a real bloodbath here when you consider the stakes of the NBA Cup here. So we'll take the Celtics to pick up a big W tonight. Next up, Tyrese Halliburton. What do you like for him?
Yeah, BYB points prop. I'm going Tyrese Halliburton, 20 plus points, plus 165. He's been hot garbage scoring points recently, but it's also adjusted his number to a point where like he keeps going under. He's had bad games. He's not shooting well. He's shooting 28% from deep, but has dropped his total here from like 19.5 to 16.5. And I think that's opening the door here to where you also can go for the alt, because the alt is working off that 16.5 and it's plus 165. He's playing the Milwaukee Bucks. They kind of have that like personal rivalry a little bit from last year too. I remember those games from the NBA Cup, and they had I think that was the game Giannis stole the ball. I don't know. There's a bunch of issues there. But anyways, Halliburton, Antetokounmpo and Lopez are, good rim protectors, protect the paint. Halliburton's game is kind of shooting threes, awkward floaters. That will all play against the Bucks. And the Bucks don't have a perimeter defender who can stop him, like Damian Lillard, AJ Green, all these guys. Halliburton will be able to create shots for himself. It's kind of a scary one because he's not shooting well. I just do think he's probably going to fire a lot of three-pointers tonight. And I don't think it matters to him that he's shooting 28%. So I think the price is right to go after the all here. And I went 20 plus 165.
Okay, my last pick of the show, last pick of the week. I'm going to go with a rare point total prop. I'm going to take De'Aaron Fox to go over his number, 25.5 over at BetMGM. So you might have heard he's kind of hot right now. He's averaging 41.5 points per game over his last 4 games, going over this 25.5 point mark in all 4 of those games. He's got a pretty good recent history of cooking the Clippers. He has 5 games of 30 or more points against them since the start of the 2022-23 season. This includes going for 31 against them back on November 8th. In LA, they're allowing the 3rd most points to opposing guards here over the last 10 games of the season. They got cooked by SGA a handful of games ago. So, yeah, I'll take Fox to stay hot and go over that number, 25.5. Okay, John, last pick of the show, last pick of the week. You're going with Fox's teammate, hopefully to set up a couple of those buckets for Fox.
Yeah, let's do it. Domas Sabonis, 7+ assists. He's missed the last 2 games with a back injury. He's not on the injury report tonight. He's coming back. He's going to play. I just think against the Clippers have, James Harden's obviously a weak point, but they have pretty good perimeter defenders in Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones Jr. I think they're just going to use Sabonis a lot as a hub and have him create for his teammates. I think they'll have to. And if you get Sabonis out on the perimeter there or like near the nail and you start running dribble handoffs and he's setting screens, it also pulls Ivica Zubac away from a rim, and he's a good defender. He's a good rim protector. So if you can pull him out and then you have De'Aaron Fox working off of that, I think he's going to be a big part of setting up his teammates here. And I just thought the price was right. 7+ assists plus 145. It's pretty low for Sabonis. I mean, he's coming back, but I feel like Mike Brown and with the Kings has been like pushing minutes with his guys. So you don't really worry, though he's missed 2 games. I'm not too worried that he might play a lot less minutes than he typically would. I'll also answer Howdy, I'm guessing in the chat here. It says Young over 12.5 plus 130. that number does play. You could play that. I think the projection I was using does equal about 12.5 plus 110. So when I was sitting 12.5 plus 105, I don't like that, but plus 130, you could definitely play that.
Okay, John, it is now time for lunch. Nothing fancy for me today. A peanut butter sandwich after going 1-5 with my picks last night. Hot dogs for dinner. Usually prefer steak and lobster, but that's what I was eating on Tuesday. But
are you an Uncrustables guy? Like Uncrustables? You ever had them?
No, I just make them from home, the normal way. I guess those are pretty popular in the NFL locker room. I've been hearing about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's like a go-to for professional athletes. I've never had an Uncrustable.
Really? It's I don't even know how they do it. You pull it out of the freezer, and it's like the best peanut butter and jam sandwich you ever had in your life. I don't know how.
Really?
It's probably not good for you, but I like it.
Oh yeah, all the shit they put in it. Ridiculous. No wonder. I go to the grocery store the other day and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get like a fruit cup or something healthy for lunch. Fruit cup, $5, a piece of cake right under $4. No wonder why people are so goddamn unhealthy these days. We got to fix that in society. Major issue. Okay. Hopefully we fix our picks here tonight and going into the weekend. It is a big one in college football, the NFL, NBA. Of course, and of course, we will be right back with you guys on Monday for Monday Night Football, NFL recap. Brad will be here, some NBA here as well. So thank you to all of my guests for joining today. Thank you to producer Mick, a great week of producing the show here. Thank you to BetMGM for sponsoring the show. Make sure you check them out for all of your betting needs. And thank you to all of our great viewers for tuning in today and throughout the week. Best of luck with your bets tonight and this weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Let's go, Dolphins. Woo!